You're listening to Inmate Tea with AMP, where real stories meet raw truth. Today's episode features a powerful conversation with Michael Montgomery, who's calling in from a prison in Texas. Michael opens up about his childhood, the ups and downs of family life, the hard realities of the Texas prison system, and the case that led him here. But this isn't just a story about where he is. It's about where he's been, what he's learned, and the second chance he's fighting for. This conversation is about resilience, redemption, and the human side of a system so often misunderstood. Let's get into it. Welcome, Michael.
First and foremost, I want to thank the Inmate Tea family and platform for allowing me to come on to this platform and be able to tell my story, not only for myself, but for all the second lookers in the state of Texas, and to advocate for us on the behalf of us trying to fight for that chance that you said you talked about, that second look. And thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on and sharing your
Yeah.
story with us. We are so excited to hear about it. Let's start with your background, childhood, and what led you to prison.
So, like I was telling you earlier, I was talking about being vulnerable inside of prison is sometimes frowned upon, but when it comes to making a true connection with people who are sincere, it makes it so much easier to tell your story. So for me, I would just be straight up and say, I had a troubled childhood in my youth. I come from a neighborhood in Houston called Fifth Ward. Early on, I encountered violence young. Seeing my mother going through the things that she went through, suffering from her drug addiction, alcoholism. My father, he's not from America. My dad's Colombian, and then my dad went to prison when I was 7 years old. And when my father got incarcerated while I was 7, that's when my spiral kind of went that way. I just started down. I went downhill from that point forward, and I started getting in trouble young. And by the time I was 9 years old, I had been admitted into a mental health behavioral hospital because I was getting into so much trouble at school that they didn't even understand how to deal with me. And so I entered the mental health care part of my youth phase.
Mm-hmm.
And around 11, 12 years old, I started running with gangs, and I was a part of this gang.
I do have a question, because you actually are the first person that's come on the podcast that grew up with a parent that was incarcerated that we've encountered so far.
Oh, no. So I would tell you something that's funny, which is where you said that grew up with a parent incarcerated. Not only was, at one point in 2003, it was me, myself, my mother, my father, and both of my sisters were incarcerated at the same time.
Oh my goodness!
So I remember just being,
wow.
Yeah, I remember just being real, real vulnerable and thinking, I have a twin brother. He was the only one outside of society at that time. I remember just back then, just that I could see that thought in my head, not just feeling so, not just sad for myself, but more so for my brother being himself out there in society. And his whole family is locked up.
Well, so being somebody that grew up watching other people that went to prison and the struggles that come with that, did it not ever deter you to not go a little bit more?
See, so let me, and this is the thing, right? I grew up in a house. I never really, I wouldn't say felt love. We knew love, but I never heard it in the household, right?
Yeah.
And so in the streets is where I kind of felt that love at. And I felt like if I just got locked up, maybe I'll meet my father down here. And not knowing that I was so young, I didn't even understand the system. I didn't realize that even if I did get locked up, I would never see my dad because he was in the federal penitentiary, and what I was catching was state cases. It was a far-fetched thought, unrealistic thought.
Mike, what you're saying is, the typical. It's kind of like the typical young man that grows up in a disruptive household. You were loved,
Yes.
but you were looking for a certain kind of love, and you turned to the streets to find this love because
Right.
you thought that's where the love was at, because you seen everybody else that turned to the streets and they seemed to be happy. They seemed to
Right.
find that affirmation in the streets. So when you turned to the streets and you felt like you were finding that affirmation, you thought, hey, well, if I do this, I'm going to get to go see my dad because that might be the only way I get to see my dad.
Right.
I never had a parent that was locked up, but I had uncles that was locked up. And I used to go to the penitentiary and see my uncles. I would hear the story. I didn't fear it. I wanted to go see what it was about. So I can relate. I totally relate.
Right. And so this is the fact about my family. I think, and this is not unique. It's not different. It's not nothing that ain't a lot of us in society and coming from where I come from hasn't went through. In my family, nearly every male on my grandmother's side, outside of a couple, has been to prison. So my mom has three brothers. Two of them have been incarcerated. And my mama has three sisters. We got out of all my mother's sisters, each of them had one son that came to prison and they did a stretch. I've been locked up 26. My little cousin, he just got out after doing like 14 and a half. And then I got a baby cousin. When I got locked up, he was 2 years old. Now he's on plus. He's doing 45 years for a murder. And, those are the things that hurt me emotionally because I remember just leaving him when he was 2 years old. And it hurt me to hear and see that he's now locked up. And I was like, God dang, what's wrong with my family? You know what I mean? What is it going to take to save us and open up the eyes of the youth to see that, man, this is not the path that we want to take. And it's an often path that we chose because we feel like we don't have no other choice.
Yeah. So, Michael, at what age were you incarcerated with the charge that you have now?
I got locked up at 14. I've been incarcerated ever since that day. My birthday is October 7, 1985.
Wow. Ever since you were 14?
I turned 14 in October 1999. By January 25th, I was locked up. I was only in society 3 months into my 14th year, and I've been incarcerated. I'll be 40 in October.
Wow.
It's been a long journey.
Wow.
It's a difficult. It's bitter. It's bitter to swallow at times.
Yeah.
But like even with Jeremy, the team that joined Jeremy, he always compliments. He's like, man, you've been in here, man, and the beauty of your situation is that you don't have to arrested development. Right? And so I've seen a lot of guys come into this prison system who get lost, and it's like they stuck into a time zone to where they never came out of it. And it's you ever seen it? It's like a movie that I'm gonna get you sucker when the dude gets out of prison. Still, he walking around and he thinks he got the fishing shoes. Well, you have these type of mentalities around into this very, very day. They have not grown, and that development psychologically has been arrested. That's with the youth. That's with the old man. That's with the middle age. It's crazy. But I credit the things that I've been able to accomplish in there, not giving up.
Yeah.
I've been in here 20 years. I come in here at 22. You've been in here since you were 14. And for you, as Jeremy Busby told you, for you to not be mentally beat down and consumed by the prison system, your will to survive and your will to overcome this prison system is amazing.
Go ahead.
Brother, I see people come in here and they'll stay in here 5-6 years and they're plumb beat down. You are a story to be heard. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so let me tell you this, man. From the moment I remember, and I will tell you this, I remember when I called. So they were looking for me and coming to searching for my grandmother's house, looking to arrest me. And so I remember calling my uncle. He was like, man, if you didn't do this, then go ahead and turn yourself in. I was like, I didn't do it. So he's like, well, we're gonna call them people. You're gonna go turn yourself in. If you didn't do this, they're gonna let you out the next day. Keep in mind, I have never prior to this situation. I've never been a juvenile before in my life. I've never been arrested. So I don't have a record, I don't have fingerprints, I don't have pictures or nothing. But this is my very, very first time ever been locked up in my whole entire being on this earth. My aunt told my uncle first, I'm like, man, I'm good. So he's like, well, go ahead and turn yourself in. We call the detectives, they come to get me. And I remember, man, this is eerie because I'm not gonna say that I wasn't on the scene when this crime happened, but I was there. But I remember when I got in the back of that cop car, I remember prior to getting in that cop car, I hugged and I kissed my grandmother. And my grandmother she wasn't very affectionate and kissing like that. And so I remember just getting that last kissing and hug from her. And that was my last time touching my grandma physically. However, I remember getting in that car and I was driving, and we was driving out of my neighborhood, and I remember just turning and looking out the back of that window and just looking at the neighborhood, trying to capture that picture of the scenery, because I was like, man, I probably never see this for a long time. And that was a thought that went through my mind as a child. So as I was looking at going down, it was a street called Sellers Road, and we turned on the Inmate Road and headed to the Hardington Road, and I literally looked out that window the whole way to the detective, wherever they was taking me, and I was just watching it. And I was just in my mind, I'm like, man, it's gonna be a long time. However, I didn't think my long time was like a couple of years, 2 years, if anything, right?
Yeah. You didn't imagine this long, did you?
No, I didn't think no 26, 30. I did not think that at all, because I'm like, man, I was out there, with these guys committing the robberies and all this. So I know I'm gonna get in trouble. But I'm like, man, I didn't think I was gonna be gone forever.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Juvenile, the very first day, this is why I fought back off the Arrested Development, because the very first night I was there, I realized this is not where I wanted to be. I never got comfortable. And the first night that they locked that door, mind you, I never been locked up before. So when they locked me in that cell, there was a place called West Dallas Juvenile Detention Center in Houston. Matter of fact, let me tell you a funny story. When the people said, hey, we in Ross to West Dallas, I damn near cried. I was like, why are we going so far? Because I'm from Houston. But I didn't know that they had a place called West Dallas. I'm thinking they taking us way to Dallas. I'm like, no, I ain't never gonna see my family because I ain't never been there before. So I'm like, man, what's wrong with these people? So we ended up pulling up in the parking garage. I was like, man, West Dallas is pretty close. No. But so we get there, and when that door closed for that night, they said, leave your pants outside the cell, kick your shoes out, and all this stuff. And they closed me in that door, and when it locked, Kelly to sit in that fast. And I remember kicking that door, boom, boom, man, I want my mama, let me out of here. And then people came back, you don't shut up with y'all. And then I was just crying myself to sleep. And I was like, I was 14, I was 5'2", at least 115 pounds. I was so small. And I remember just crying myself to sleep. And I was just, every day I was like, I want to get out of here. It's 26 years later, I wake up to this every day and say the same thing. I want to get out of here. So that's what keeps me from getting something. I wake up every day and pray the same prayer and say, I got to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here. And so therefore I continue to fight. That's why I'm at the stage where I'm at right now with some great news I'll share here in a moment with y'all once we get to the second part of this interview.
Okay. Well, I just can't even imagine. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and 14-year-old me being locked in a prison cell, I think I would I don't even know how I would deal with that or recover. I just can't even imagine it.
I was 22, man. And knowing what I know when I got locked up, the way I felt the day that I come into prison, and being 14 and experiencing that, and they're shutting you in a cell, closing the door, and you have nobody there. The people that's around you, you don't know them. And you otherwise got to fight or flight. When you finally got in there, you had to learn to fight or run. And they weren't nowhere to run. I can only imagine.
Yeah, and so many people, including Pig, that have come on the podcast and told us about prison and their first days in prison and kind of walked us through that, have always talked about remembering that door shutting for the first time and knowing that they are not going to be able to walk out of it. And I'm imagining,
especially if it's your very first time.
Yeah, and I imagine at 14 it hits a little bit different.
Well, man, I'm gonna tell you something, man, and I'm gonna tell you it hurt. It's a pain that I can't even when I sit back and. Some days I don't even want to go back that far and think that far because it's a tearjerker. I got locked up in January 25th of 2000. I wasn't even locked up a week before my grandfather passed away. So I started experiencing violence immediately. It wasn't even 7 days and my grandfather was dead. My grandfather passed away February 4th. And, man, that was the first heartbreaking pain that I could have ever felt. And then years later, 2 years after that, my grandmother. So y'all talk about. Let me just tell you why I had to endure this, and I fought to stay sane. I have a twin brother, and when they gave me a capital murder life sentence at the age of 15, because I came in at 14 and was sentenced at 15. I couldn't imagine leaving my brother on this earth to contemplating suicide or any of those things like that, because all I could think about was, man, what would my brother? How would his birthday be experienced knowing that his twin is dead or committed a suicide on his, you know what I mean? So every year I wouldn't want him to relive that, but I just never wanted to be so selfish like that. Even though I'm not gonna say that I didn't have, because we go through those moments like, man, I'm tired of this. And it's like it's never going to end, especially here in Texas when those summers are so hot, there's no AC, and you just down here suffering. And, these people can be so inhumane at times and unforgiving, and they have no mercy, no compassion, especially in the court system. The thought of just doing one day, being able to get out of here and walk out of here and seeing my mother smile, my twin brother just being able to hug them and be and with my sisters and, Tiffany and all of my friends and just being able to see me one day come out of here with a smile and be successful. That's what I wake up to. And I have that thought on my mind every day that, hey, man, I'm going to turn this thing around. I'm going to turn it around. I'm not going to do. And I've never even seen myself doing it for 40 years. It's always been on the paper, but it was never a reality. I'm like,
And Jeremy, that drive, that determination will. Every child, because you were a child, there's no doubt about that. You were a child. Every child cannot find that. And it took a lot in you not to want to give up, not to want to take your own life. Because most young kids will feel like their life is over. My life is over.
I came in the opposite. My mentality was like, man, I'm going to break, I'm going to shake this. This ain't, they messed up. That's just the naive and part of it, but it's actually a beautiful thing because I'm like, man, don't give up. You know what I mean? If you don't have nothing to fight for, there's no reason to live.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And brother, again, I'm gonna just say I commend you for where you're at today, your mental stability. I'm sitting here, it blows my mind because you and I have the same sense, but for you to get it so young, bro, and to be able to keep yourself in a mental state, because the people that's listening to this podcast, and your sister, they don't understand the magnitude, the weight that sits on your shoulders when that judge looks at you and says you got life in the state prison.
Man, big. So I broke down. It was a noose, man. I broke down. I fell out in that dang courtroom. Man, I was like, what? Oh, no. I fell out, man. I didn't know. But I thought I died. I was like, oh, this is not right, man, because I just knew I was going to get a not guilty. I thought my lawyers had did the best they could do. And, man, I fell out, man, and I remember just being numb. And I'm going to tell you this here. This is so sad. They stuck me in a holding tank. Now, keep in mind, I had other charges along with this. I have 5 co-defendants who are all older than me and put everything on me. They were all Hispanic. I was only, I'm half Latino and I'm African American. So, but the fact of the matter is they were all sitting in Harris County way before I made it to Harris County. So they had already made deals and pleas with the DA. So when I got there fighting a juvenile certification, hey, there was no pleas on the table for me. It was either you're going to sign for life or you take it to trial. What? No, let's go to trial. You know what I mean? I ain't signing my life away. So it's no way I have to go to trial. And they didn't want, I was 14, my co-defendants was 21, 22, 16, 18, 17, 18. They were all older than me. And they all got less of time. And I took it to trial and I got capital murder life. And I remember we had these advocates at the time. They were the Nation of Islam. You was Cornell X and Robert Muhammad, and he made a quote in Houston Chronicle newspaper. He said there's a fundamental problem with our criminal court system when they allow adult co-defendants to cop pleas and to put everything on the juvenile, and he pays the price of it. And so I guess on paper it says that I am the ringleader, that I commanded everything and I put it all together. And I was like, this is crazy. And I was like,
wow.
This got to be, this is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So at 14, you were telling grown men what to do. You're the youngest, you're the kid in the bunch, They're
Supposedly.
following behind you. They're doing what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
I'm just like basically I tell you get in your car, go here. Like, come on now. It's crazy.
It
In
is.
reality, I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad. But it's the way our criminal court system here in Houston to say, man, but whatever sensational they want to get it and get you there. And they don't care whose neck is on that chopping block, as long as they can get that conviction. And they don't look at I remember when I was going to trial, they had a gag order. They told my lawyers they couldn't even bring my age up to the jury. And there was no way that they could bring my age. The jurors didn't even know I was a kid. They knew I was young, but they didn't know how old I was. That didn't come out. Until the very next day when I was convicted. When I was convicted, the headline was 15-year-old juvenile sentenced to life, capital murder life, and that was the headline that was in the newspaper the very next following morning.
Wow. And bro, like I study the law, and the law that's gonna probably get you out of prison is the case from Alabama. Where they made it against the law.
Miller versus Alabama.
The case of Miller versus Alabama.
Oh yes, Miller.
Right. So so I had ended up contacting the EGI, Equal Justice Initiative, back in 2016 because I remember prior to me starting the fight, I was like, man, this ain't right. So for over the years, I've written so many different organizations. I was young. So you have to understand, it was so difficult for me to understand legal jargon on a 7th grade education, right? Because when I got locked up, I was in the 7th grade, right? You expect me to understand what a lawyer, this law, grammatical, and all these things, it was just difficult. So I was shooting and writing, and right after I got found guilty and I lost my appeals, I was just shooting, writing, and writing. So when I read the book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, I was like, man, because he talked about the Miller versus Alabama case. So I wrote them in 2016, and I remember them. I still got that letter, and they wrote back, and they was just like, hey, we really don't mention this. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to get it incorrect. They were saying like they don't really do anything in Texas, but they shot me an address to write to in Austin with someone who I could ready to connect up with. But nothing ever transpired from that. But at that time, and I'm going to say this, and I mean this seriously, at that time, I wasn't mature enough and I wasn't ready. God is going to move at a time when the fruit is ripe, you're going to be picked. He ain't going to let the fruit go bad.
Well,
I wasn't ready.
Say that again.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And this is the thing. So let me just jump into this real quick because we're talking about the EGI and the second chance bill. So we want to talk about the one in Texas real quick.
Okay.
Right now, you have a lot of second lookers. We have like 1,660 second lookers, male and female, that is locked up. It's been locked up since they were like 14, 15, and just young. They were definitely under the age of 16 and under when we became incarcerated. So you have so many juvenile lifers down here right now. A lot of you have quite a few of them who have educated themselves, learned to all these rehabilitation programs that they have that they're offering now. So right now, the thing is, I'm going back to that right fruit, right? Texas has been failing us because every legislation they bring up the second look bill. And it was initially called second chance, now it's called second look bill. But they bring up the second look bill and it fails every other year because of the politics. And you have so many juvenile life who are ripe and ready for the picking and get out of here and advocate and do some great things for society. However, as hope starts to diminish, that fruit is becoming rotten. And what I mean by rotten, I'm saying the mind is starting to go backwards. I've seen dudes who, when we get let down and their bill don't pass every other year, they get depressed. Some of them start smoking K2. Some of them just go back to gang banging, just doing so much, right? And just get to the point where they just lose all hope. But Texas is continuing they just getting it wrong over and over and over again. And it's like, man, we need some celebrity pushback down there. Seriously, I was listening to this podcast called Cryptic Christ, and the guy on there was saying, hey, this next legislation they was looking to get C.J. Stroud and all these Mark Cuban and Matthew McConaughey and all these guys to come in and try to get behind this second chance bill law for the juvenile lifers. And we need something accurate because right now we are suffering, and it's like we getting bullied down here. We getting bullied, and the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled that, you know, it was cruel and unconstitutional. And our minds, the science has always proven that our minds weren't fully developed. Our cognition skills. The way I'm talking right now, you can best believe I couldn't communicate with you like this when I was 14. So that was because I was determined. I was determined to educate myself. I don't have nothing but a GED, but everything I've gotten right up to this point because I've had people like Tiffany who's on the line send me books. I want to be a barber. I want to learn this. I want to learn small business. This woman was go out of get in her pocketbook, order these books off Amazon, and send me the books, and I would study them diligently. And so you know what? Hey, I started to become wiser in these areas. I haven't been able to put forth the work to see if it can actually become true because you have to be out there. But I do have the information.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with a lot of the juvenile lifers. We have a lot of us who are strained up down here. We crying out for some national support to push for Texas is one of them bully states is like, man, they're going to do what they want. You can't come down here and tell us nothing.
Yeah. And you know, Michael, it's not just in Texas. It's all over the United States. I mean, it's here in North Carolina. It's the same thing. There's been tax bills. It's been proposed for the past 3 years on this Second Chance Act, on the life sentences. And, you know, there's been laws that's been mandated regarding these juvenile lifers. And, brother, they're still sitting in prison. 7, 8 years after these bills have been mandated, they still sitting in prison. And it demoralizes these young guys. It demoralizes me, but, you know, we only have the ability to do what we can do. And the United States is supposed to be the home of the free, bro. But we're sitting here and we got more children, more young men and young women sitting in prison with life sentences than any other country.
The sad part about this thing is that when you look at, even with you being 20 and me being 14, a lot of the mistakes that we made back then, we wouldn't even make today. We're not career. I'm a career criminal.
Yeah.
Some of my things were accidental, mischievous. They were one-off encounters, and I know they have to. Yeah. They were one-off encounters. Statistics has proven. It's crazy, man.
I mean, this is just a fact. Most of the guys, most of the ladies that's been in here a substantial amount of time, brother, they get education. You know why we get education? Because we have that one little glimmer of hope that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't have no college education, but I done the same thing you've done. I've strived. Mm-hmm. I've been in a bad situation. I've been through some bad things in here, you know, but I survived. And being that I'm a survivor of that, I'm going to survive this life sentence. And that's what I see in you. You're a survivor. You come in here at 14 years old.
I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up on this. I'm not laying it down, bro. I'm not giving up. And the thing is that I've always felt that if I could get my voice out there and tell my story, then maybe someone who out there who has some type of compassion to hear this, to get behind and push me out of here, man, to help me out of here. And that's my whole hope. Even coming on this platform today, it's like, man, you know, because I've never been able to get it out there. And I knew that I had a grave injustice. Man, let me tell you something real quick. And I want to let y'all know where I'm at right now with my situation. In 2023, I started back fighting my case pro se. Of course, I got white-courted over and over again to denials and the dismissals. But I fought it all the way to 2254. But what I was fighting on was the fact of the matter is that they certified me. When I got certified from juvenile to go stand trial as an adult, I never had a psychological or psychiatric examination. In fact, the juvenile court ordered it. They were supposed to have ordered it, but it never took place. My juvenile court-appointed attorney wrote a letter and waived my right to a psychiatric examination, and then they certified me.
Wow.
And which is illegal. What I started doing was from 2009 to 2002, we hired an appeal lawyer. So she fought the case, and then she got dismissed and denied. And so every year I was writing her. Her name was Pamela Booker Williams, right? This attorney out of Texas, Houston. And she kept hitting me with letters like, oh, I'm working on your case, I'm working on your case, and I'm working on your case. However, I'm thinking that she's actually working on my case. I don't know that. Here it is, 2006, 2000. But by the time 2009 rolls around, she writes me a letter saying still working on my case. However, I don't even realize I've been time board because she hasn't filed anything, but she's dragging me along saying she's working on something. So now I've been time board. Wow. So I know I have one shot. All 1107 in 2023. Keep in mind, I told you I'll go back to 2016. I wrote the EGI, but I was writing Houston Chronicle and writing other organizations. And so 2023, I filed a pro se 1107, and I started asking open applications saying, hey, I never got a psychiatric examination. In fact, hey, listen, I was admitted and under psychiatric care twice, admitted to a psychiatric hospital twice prior to coming to getting locked up in juvenile. So that right there alone would have deterred them from certifying me as I was competent to stand trial as an adult. So I kept flagging and writing the courts, and then they just kept it. They said, hey, your point is valid. However, you're time hard. And they say ignorance is not you can't use that as a defensive law. So I was like, what? And I'm not understanding it. So I'm getting help with this process. I'm like, I don't understand this stuff. Keep in mind, I'm still not understanding it to this very day. I have a lawyer now. In December 2024, I had all my 2254 and it ended up getting denied in February of this year. However, I had to hire a lawyer. And my lawyer was like, don't worry about the time. I hired a lawyer from the initiative. His name is Chris Bell. And he was like, don't worry about the time board situation. We're going to get around that. So he filed paperwork. He got a court order to go get my juvenile records. I get a letter a month and a half ago saying, from my lawyer saying, hey, Harris County Clerk's Office, he said, I got a court order to go get your records and your files. There appear to be documents missing from the files. Then he goes on to tell me that the psychiatric and psychological examination that was supposed to be in order, he said those documents are no longer in the files. Then he goes and says that he has a stand-up line says the juvenile probation department has destroyed all its records and no longer has any records pertaining to your case. It blew my mind. I was like, hold up. They don't have any records pertaining to my case, then why am I still here? Why am I still here? Yes. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, Michael, let me tell you something. First, you can overcome a time bar because you had a hired attorney. That's for one thing. And that's an ineffective assistance of counsel that they didn't, that's a Sixth Amendment violation. That she didn't file timely, she didn't follow the time procedures. And any competent attorney would have filed this paperwork in a timely manner. Now, as far as the state not having your mental health records, that is something they got to keep at all times because throughout your time, from the time you're incarcerated to the time you're released, they got to keep backdated mental health records so they can assess you during your time of incarceration. Those mitigating factors should have been brought up in court, and your appeals attorney should have used those mitigating factors to reduce your sentence from life without parole or a life sentence to a lesser term because you weren't mentally capable of understanding what you were facing, for one. You shouldn't have never stood trial.
That's what I was getting at.
All these
pigs. That's why I'm saying that right now today. That's the whole thing. Go back for a second, Pig. I told you I had never been a juvenile before. I've never been incarcerated. So when they arrested me, how does the juvenile court feel their story around you? Where do they go to get a background check about you? They go to your school, right? And when they subpoena my school records, it shows that I was on psychiatric and psychiatric medication. My lawyer wrote a letter and waived the relation. You cannot simply get a child with on mental health medication. It's impossible. So he waived the right, and they allowed it to go through. And you cannot Texas Family Code of Notice. It's 54.02, right, or 52.041. It's by law you have to have the mental evaluation. You cannot get around it. And they messed over me. And then they appointed my uncle. They appointed my uncle for one day to certify me, right? Because my mom, she was going through her struggles, and and that's a whole other story. She went through her struggles, and she wasn't coming to court for at that time. So I was basically alone in the court system
just want to point out that it is crazy. It is wild that we're on this podcast talking about referencing your elementary school records. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even know that someone, a juvenile, could be given a life sentence until today. I had no idea. And I'm sure that some of our viewers are feeling the same way right now, watching this, hearing this. It's like, that's crazy to me to think that something that you do as a juvenile in middle school age that could take the rest of your life away from you. That's just wild to me.
Like the snap of a finger.
What?
Snap of a finger, man. You know, man, I'm gonna tell you something, man. I was a very introverted child, and it's like even being on this podcast today. This is something I had to build up for a long. I was scared to tell my story for so many years because of the embarrassment and just like, man, I let myself get caught up in this stuff. Just being able to talk to you guys today and be candid and be open and appeal to the public is something that I had to learn how to be confident. But that confidence came for just praying and knowing that God had me, man, because He said it's time, man, it's time. And I know that in a matter of months, man, I need to be out of here. I'm in court right now waiting on a decision from the Criminal Court of Appeals that my lawyer just sent in a motion like, hey, man, you know, he sent this motion in for them to reconsider my 1107 based on the grounds that, hey, man, y'all don't even have these records. Y'all destroyed these in that record. How could you just, like, I got a capital murder case. There is no way that my record should be destroyed, especially with a capital murder case, because that's the fact that it's equivalent like somebody's going to be thrown. They need to preserve those records up until the moment he is executed. So y'all done already destroyed my records and try to deny me a fighting chance. That's like,
they're denying you. They're denying your due process. I mean, the 14th Amendment grants you due process. And then, you know, they're denying you your 6th Amendment right, your 14th Amendment right, and then all this compiled together is a violation of your 8th Amendment, which is cruel and unusual treatment. But going all the way back under Miller versus Alabama, it has been ruled. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that it's unconstitutional under the 8th Amendment to give a child, I want people to understand this, a child, a life sentence without parole, to pretty much say this child cannot be rehabilitated. This child cannot regain himself, never, ever be a part of society and be considered as a productive part of society. How can you do this? This is a child, 14, 15-year-old child. It just, I mean, bro, it really hurts my heart to know that they've done
I understand it's mind-boggling.
You like that.
It got you upset a little bit, and it's unsettling, and I know it's mind-boggling. And trust me. Every high, every low.
I am really passionate about this because this is what this platform's for. This is what this is about, to shine light on the injustices. The United States, what people need to understand, the United States is supposed to be the home of the free, but they're taking children, they're taking men and women off the streets and giving them life sentences without parole. They're virtually murdering. This is modern day murder by the system. They're murdering you, putting you in a box.
I lost my teens in here. From the time I was 14, lost all of my teens. Then I hit my 20s, and I was holding on to hope. Then I lost all of my 20s in here. Then I hit 30. And I remember going to 50, and I was on my 33rd birthday, and I was sitting in front of my mama, and I was like, man, I just started crying and visit. I was like, Mom, I got to get out of here. And I hit 33, and I was like, man, I felt it. And I remember just looking at the pictures of me and my twin brother when I got locked up. The picture that he sent me from Virginia, and just to kind of choking up a little bit now, but just to see his face, and then I seen him with his children as a grown man with a beard, hurt.
Yeah. Because, brother, I get inflamed. I get very impassioned and inflamed about this, because if this interview doesn't enrage somebody, if it doesn't inflame somebody, if it doesn't invoke kind of emotion into you, you're just a heartless human being. I don't care who you are. I mean, all of us every person on this phone was 14 years old at one time. And we all made mistakes. But should that mistake take the rest of your life? You know?
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
The United States is number one in the world. The one thing we're number one in the world for is the most incarcerated per capita. And it's got so bad that we're going to lock up kids.
Yeah.
Man, I know it. And those are the things that
and bro,
but you know, we have a beautiful country, and I just hold on to that hope that one day they're gonna get it right eventually, and I hope soon. But not just for myself, because if I come on this platform and just advocate for myself, and I feel like I'm doing an injustice to the others, because I know guys who don't have the support that I have. I've been fortunate in prison. I've never been indigent. My family has always been there for me, has always stood about me side by side, taking these steps with me, up until the point where I'm very relevant to my nieces and nephews who wasn't born when I got incarcerated. They were born after I got incarcerated. I'm present in their life. So I'm fortunate. But I know that there's a lot of other guys who don't have that. In fact, I got a friend named Patrick. I remember we was in Harris County. He was 15, I was 14. His mother passed away from HIV and AIDS. They gave him life with 15 years stacked on top when he was 15 years old. You know, he didn't know his father. His mother was just passing away. And all of these, hearing his story and just knowing about him. And I used to tell myself, man, if I ever get out of here, I'm not going to forget PT. Because that's what we call him. Like, I ain't going to never forget him. And to this very day, I know his inmate number by heart. I know I never forget it. It's seared in my mind, because that was one of the guys that if I was to make it out before him, I got to reach back and try to help him, but just because of his circumstances. And it's circumstances like him that, man, I don't know, but I want the help for all of us.
Yeah.
Everybody's situation is bad when they're incarcerated, brother. But let me tell you something. Your story is one that everybody in the world needs to hear. They need to understand what is going on inside these systems. They need to understand they are children. You're still a child, brother. You're still a child. You haven't even had your teens. You haven't had your 20s. You haven't had your 30s. And I understand you look at yourself as a grown man today, and you're grown physically. You're grown mentally. You're grown emotionally. But there's so much that's missing that you didn't.
That I miss. I'm telling you, man, those pictures of my childhood that I miss, man, like, you know, I think about that at times. There's been so many days that, man, when it's been times at night where I would have to put the towel over my eyes, man, and cry myself to sleep, even as a hardcore member of this group of guys. Like, I used to speak and have rank over certain group. Right at the time, I remember I was going myself, and I was just like, man, this ain't what I want. This ain't me, man. Like, this ain't me. But I'm only doing this for survival. And let's keep it real, man. A lot of dudes who do what they do down here, and they ain't them. They just doing this stuff for survival. They do it because they feel like they don't want to be alone. They get stand. They stand with God. And when I realized it, I'm like, man, I'm gonna stand with God. Man, I'm gonna see what God can do. And when I took that oath and pledged my life to God, I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this all the way, man. That's when things started to change me. That's why I'm able to sit here today on this phone and talk with you guys, because I took a stand to start going in a new direction. And that's why I advocate now. At one point I was inside of this place. I was teaching classes because I go to aesthetic wing and I teach classes. Whatever pictures y'all got of me, y'all gonna see. I think the ones that TJ has, he'll show you. I teach the dudes to the slide on the aesthetic wing, showing them how to get their mind back. I deal with youngsters because I know that there was nobody for me back then. The system has changed in many ways. Mm-hmm. There was no one to come talk to me when I was suffering with my mental affections and my time was found in terms of day. There was many days in here and it was rage. I lived in rage for over a decade and a half, almost 15 years of my life. In fact, I was still fighting up until a few years ago because I was fighting myself. Because I was so angry. I had so much anger for allowing myself to walk into this place like this, to be trusting people who I'm thinking that have my best interests. And that's what we make the mistake when we go to the street. We think that these guys have our best interests when they only have their interests, and we lose. That's why I feel that it's my calling to go talk to these juveniles like, man, don't do it. If you only knew what they plan on doing to you, man, if you go down that road, the system is going to hurt you. The pictures of my family has changed so much that I no longer recognize them. And I'm saying this to be sensitive. I had an auntie that just passed away, and I remember when we had the video visit for the funeral. I couldn't even recognize the people I was looking at. I was like, who's that? I was like, wow. You know, and they looking at me and like, man, you still look young. And I'm looking at them like, man, y'all life has been hard on y'all. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying,
I didn't say that, did you?
Right? Yes, I did. You know, look, man, I don't bite my tongue. I don't bite my tongue.
Hey, you told me to look old.
Look, look rough.
I mean,
whatever you do, take a be careful. I'll tell the truth, man. And that's just me. I'll tell that whole truth. I don't care. I don't care whose feelings involved. I'm going to tell you the truth because guess what? If nobody tells me the truth, and I'm going to tell you kind of my foolishness.
I mean, this is a preserver, and I feel the same way, bro.
God,
and
y'all making me feel bad. Look, I want to be preserved, but
I go
I'm
out
not
there
going to prison to be preserved. I'm not doing
No,
it.
look, I'm saying, this is funny. But y'all got some pictures of me, man. I'm telling you, I'm going to be 40 in a few months. He be telling me, like, man, you're not. I'm like, yo, I turned 40 in October. No way.
Michael, so at this point, though, you're waiting to hear the answer to an appeal, right?
Right. So, yeah, my lawyer filed a suggestion to reconsider his decision and deny relief on my first application for writ of habeas corpus. So right now, man, let's just say, shout out to my lawyer, man, Chris Phelps, man. I can't say how, and like he came at a time when he into my life at a time when I really, really, really needed it. And you know, I know God says with every difficulty there is relief, man, and that relief I needed it because I was fighting pro se, and the courts they don't respect pro se. You know, he has a bar. He has a bar attorney, a bar number, right? So they respect the whole time. And he could come in with the same argument that I was coming with and see and get a different result that I could never get. You know what I'm saying? But he's one of their peers. Man, I shout out to him, man. And right now, man, you know, even still, we need a lot more help with this case, man. You know, my attorney, man, y'all can email him. It's Chris@self.law. You know, anybody got any suggestions and they want to help out, you know, I mean, the Inmate Tea just give us any type of any advocate groups that can get behind this because we know that text can be cruel. Even though we coming with facts and we saying that, hey, y'all messed them over, they can still be cruel. So that's why we need all of the push. You know, we need that Jalen Hurts, man. We need that push, man. We need to get this thing in the end zone, man.
Mm-hmm.
But any assistance that I can give from you guys and the Inmate Tea family and anybody who's listening, I'm very, very open and thankful and any suggestions. And right now I got Tiffany. We was in process. We was trying to build a Facebook and Instagram and all these types. We was trying to get the page set up, but you know, we ran into some things. Both of us experienced some things this past month and a half ago. But if it's anybody out there who does web design and understand how to build a platform, I just need someone to just reach out to us and help us and get things going.
Okay. All right. And so we want you to update us. We want you to keep us updated because we here at Inmate Tea with A&P, we want to know. We want updates. We're praying for this decision for you. So please keep us informed. And we just pray that we could do an episode where you are outside of prison and you're telling us about that mental picture that you took when you were 14 out of the back of the cop car. We want an update on how much has changed in that picture.
Yeah.
Right. Man, I really believe that I'm on the cusp of a victory.
Yeah.
I really feel it. In fact, I pray so much, man. I wake up and I pray, man, and I pray and I continue to ask God to, you know, see this thing through and have and bestow mercy and grace and a little favor on the decision makers because, you know, we don't when it's time to be hard, but when it's time to show compassion, we need you to show compassion. And right now we need that compassion. And we just be asking for it. We asking Texas to make the best decision. not just for everyone, for all of us. I've done enough time. I've done 26 years, man. Going on 26 years, I've done it.
That was Michael Montgomery calling from a Texas prison, sharing his story with honesty, courage, and a hope for a second chance. From his early years and family struggles to his experience inside the Texas prison system and the current case that defines his fight for freedom, Michael's story reminds us that behind every case number is a complex human life. We appreciate you listening. We hope this conversation sparks reflection, compassion, and awareness. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is Inmate Tea with AMP, bringing you voices that deserve to be heard.